Hello, back again to do another unboxing and review. Today I have kind of an impromptu review. I actually was not intending to do a review of this particular item. It was gotten for a family member who, for whatever reason, does not like smartphones. So I thought I'd go ahead and get her what I believe they call in the industry a feature phone, in short, meaning not a smartphone. But at the same time, I wanted it to be kind of cool, have features, even if it isn't a smartphone, and it also looks pretty good at the same time, which landed me with this. So I had this imported. That should be pretty obvious. And if you're wondering how to pronounce this, I'm going to try. Feel free to correct me in the comments if I butcher this, but I believe that's pronounced Tkexun, and this is the G10-1. So it comes from a company called Shenzhen YTWY Technology. Okay, so now let's go ahead and take a quick look around the box. This will be short because most of it I can't read, so but I'll take my guess at what these are. So we've already seen this. Here on this side, we have more characters. I'm believing these are listings of some of the features. I do see here QQ. I know that's a very popular app over there. It comes pre-installed on a lot of phones from China. All right, and now here, let me zoom. Okay, that's better. So here I'm pretty sure these are the different color options. I recognize that symbol there is gold, and this one here is black. So I'm going to guess that these are the colors. I know I got a black one, so there must be multiple. Anyway, when I ordered this, there were only, at least where I ordered it, there were only two color options available, so maybe there are actually more than just those two. Anyway, moving to this side, again, this is just probably more features. And then on this side here is, well, you can see the model number, and under my thumb is your IMEI number, and that'll be listed there. All right, and then that's the company name that I already spoke about earlier. So going back here, all right, and you might say, what about the bottom? Well, the bottom has nothing on it, and the top you've already seen. So yeah, all right, so here's what I do really say, overall impressions of the packaging. Well, I don't think it's really fair for me to make a judgment call on this since I can't read almost any of what's on the box. However, what I can speak to are things like there is no actual seal around it. I don't know if that's because they had to put in the US charger, so they have to open it anyways and they just don't reseal it, or does it ever come sealed? Maybe that's not even something they do. And also maybe a photo would be nice because, again, I know since I can't read the writing, photos would be appreciated, but even if you could, I don't think a little short, maybe a graphic here, or maybe even at least on the side of the phone would probably be, I don't know, somewhat of an attention to draw. So, yeah. Okay, so that'll cover that. Let's get to the unboxing. Alright, so as we already discussed, there's no seal on the box. Just going to let gravity open it. Nothing on the inside lid, no extra protection. Upon opening it, the phone is immediately visible here on the top. It is wrapped in what looks like to be one of these little anti-static bags. Put that there for the moment. Underneath, we have a little pull up here type thing. This folds out to reveal our accessories. Let's take them out. 3 things in there, nothing else on the bottom. So one of the things is this little wrist strap, which is convenient, although this color does not go at all with the phone I bought. So, but anyway, at least they included it. Okay, now more importantly here is the charger. So here, interesting this time, they must know that they were sending this to the States, because I'm getting a charger that is, by default, the US charger, right? And then they also include this, which I assume is like a travel adapter type deal. Fits over there. Now, a lot of these items, especially coming from over there, will have their charger, and then you have the adapter, which makes it the US, be able to plug it into a wall here in the States. So to get it in this configuration is appreciated because I can just leave that, and then just carry this. Okay, there's no LED here on the back, so you'll only know it's working when you have this plugged into something like the phone. Now, I'm going to stop right here, and I want to get something to do a quick contrast. You'll see why in a second. Okay, so I'm back. So here on the left is the charger that came supplied with the phone. And on the right is just your normal, get it in almost every gizmo you buy that uses micro SD. So this is just an included cable, but it's the normal size, all right? Now if you look at them, I'll put them side by side here. You can see there is definitely a length difference, and that is important. So yes, this is micro USB, but it's a special extended. Now, why is this important? Well, obvious reason is if you lose this and only have normal micro USBs, you're not going to be able to recharge the phone. You might ask, well, why does it have such a long plug? And that's because the port for charging the phone is recessed in the phone by quite a bit, and hence this needs to be longer. So yeah, make sure you don't lose this, or you better buy an extra if you want to recharge your phone. Okay, so now onto the main item, the phone. Even before I take it out of the bag, something I noticed immediately just upon holding this is the weight. This thing is way heavier than you're expecting it to be. So let's go ahead and pull it out of this little bag. Okay, there we are. So yeah, you can see we have some metal here on the sides. We have a big screen up front. We actually do have some physical buttons here on the front. Looks like a home key, maybe answer and hang up a phone call. Now, okay, going on the side, we have these on the hinge. Of course, this is a flip phone. You can see there between the two. Yeah, okay. So this here is in fact plastic. Although there is metal, I'm touching metal. It seems, well, you can probably see just by the reflection where the metal is. On the top of the hinge, just a hinge. Okay, on this side, so we don't have any buttons on the side, but again, this is a flip phone. So then on the back, there's a camera. You can see they're claiming it's 5 megapixel. If so, that's pretty good, especially at the price point this is at, which we'll cover later. There's a speaker here. At least I'm assuming that's a speaker. Let me look real quick. Yes, okay, so those are mesh, as those kind of brass colored. And then the back, this is the battery cover, and yes, it's metal, so, and especially since this is where you're going to be holding the phone, because of course you don't want to cover the camera or the speaker, you're going to be touching probably the most metal on the phone, which is here, so that's a good spot to put. If you had to make anything metal, that's a good choice down there. So let me go ahead on the bottom. Okay, there is that very, very deeply recessed charge port, micro USB, and then this here most likely is like a microphone. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and open this battery door, battery compartment. Give me a second. Okay, so I've got that. So pull this off. And if there's any doubt if it's metal, that's... Yeah, there you go. Okay, and look at this. Yes, it's a removable battery. Jeez, I really wish these would make a comeback. Anyway, looking at the battery, it's claims to be 5,800 milliamps per hour. If so, that's pretty decent. I think most smartphones, or at least the ones that don't have big batteries, what are they, like 3,300? So, and again, I'm not sure if that's, actually reality or if they just like to put it there because it looks impressive. But anyways, we're just going to assume that that's real for right now. Look at this. Okay, so here we are. Of course, all the numbers, their serial number and whatnot are under my thumb. But what is down here that I'm going to show are, yes, you can tell this comes from China or at least Asia because you have the dual SIM. And then, so that's SIM 1 and SIM 2. And then down here we have, or up here I should say, on the right side we have what looks to be your micro SD card. Oh, and you can also see it gets charged in, or the charger goes. Okay, so, okay, that's pretty cool. And again, I just love this, be able to do this. So cool. Okay. Alright, so that's the quick one. Oh, now we've done the outside. We should probably open it up, right? Because this is a flip phone. Let's do that. So, opening the phone up. we have actual buttons. And yes, these numbers are quite large, so you should have absolutely no problem finding these. And this, by the way, does, once I get it powered up, these are illuminated. I'm not sure how bright they're going to be, but they are supposed to be illuminated. Then we have some other, I guess, key. We see two. Remember, there are two SIMs in here, so I'm assuming this is how you make a call using one or the other SIM. So you can choose right here. And then a dedicated camera button and what looks to be a way to navigate around the menus. Again, this isn't a touch screen, so you're going to be using this a lot. So up, down, left, right, etc. Okay, and then two buttons up here. I'm not sure, maybe menus or whatnot. Okay, then we have that, and then the screen here is actually relatively large. I'll measure the screen and put up how big it is. Okay, so pretty. Okay, now let's do this. What it looks like opened up. So that's as far as it opens. So it looks like there. In-hand feel is actually really good. Again, because they have these, there's a metal ridge running around here, and of course the big battery cover, which is metal. You do get that feeling of it feels good in the hand. The size is actually pretty good because I have what I would assume to be normal size hands, and I can reach all the way over here and hit this button. But it's about as wide as you'd want it to be to still do one hand operation. So I think they're trying to give you both, one hand operation, but still have it be as wide as possible to get that big screen up there. Okay, so yeah, and then let's do the close. Close is nice. Let's open it up. Yep, and it does stop when it flings open. Back to the days of flip phones. Boy, I remember this. But anyways, when you flip it open, a good sign of a good flip phone is that the screen stops and just stops, and it doesn't kind of like bounce or jiggle. So it makes it feel more robust as well. Okay, so actually it feels way better, higher quality than I was expecting, and I'm going to go ahead and charge it up, and let's take from there. Alright, so I just got done putting in the SIM card, and I think this is well worth telling you a couple things to know about when you do that. First of all, we'll start with the micro SD card, right? The micro SD card does have one of those little hinge gate door types things where you pull down or up on the little cage with your fingernail. The thing kind of opens up like a hinge door. You put down the micro SD card and then lay it flat, and then you bring that little gate down over the SIM or the SD card, and then you slide it down, I believe, and it'll lock in place. There are little indicators on the actual door to let you know what way to open it and close it. So read those. Now for the SIM card, on the other hand, there are no little lift gates. You're just going to have to slide it in. Okay, now let's talk about putting in the SD card. First of all, it's a full-size SD card. So if you're going from a more modern phone into this one, most likely you won't have a full-size SIM card. It'll probably be either micro, or more likely, if you have a relatively current smartphone, it'll be a nano SIM. Okay, so you're going to have to get an adapter. Essentially, you put your little your little SIM card into like a tray, which is shaped like a full-size SIM card, and then that's what you're going to put into the phone. All right, now on top of that, be advised that at least on my particular unit, I got the gates, or again, there are no gates for the SIM card. They're just like slide under little holders. Okay. They were so tight that, well, let's just say I actually thought I was going to break the SIM card getting it in here. It did finally go, but just be warned, if you get a phone like mine, you're really going to have to give it some oomph to get it in without cracking it. So just know that. Now, pay attention to the indicators. They're little like things etched into the actual plate on the bottom, showing you what way to put the SD card and what way the little cutout faces. Pay attention to that. And of course, obviously, the contacts on the SIM card face down to touch the terminals. Okay, now we went through all that. Now, I wanted to show you, as far as turning the phone on, I know this sounds ridiculous, but there are no obvious power buttons. The power button is in fact this one right here. So just remember, it's the one right above the camera. See camera right above it. This is also the symbol for hang up. I know. So to turn it on and off, you use the hang up button, whatever. Okay, so and when you push it, you have to hold it in for like I think almost 7 seconds to turn the thing on, assuming that the whole thing is shut down, not just closed, but actually shut off. So initially, I was trying to figure out what button to, and I passed this button a couple times because it didn't seem to work. It's just because I didn't hold it long enough. All right, so I thought we'd go through the user interface here. Especially since this isn't an Android phone, you might just be curious what the actual interface looks like. Now, as you may have guessed, I have the phone open, so this is the primary screen, the inside screen. And here is the what I guess would mount to your home page. You'll notice I do not have a SIM card in this at the moment. So let's talk about navigation. Earlier, I put a little note on the screen telling you that this actually is in fact a touch screen. However, remember, this is a resistive touchscreen, not capacitive. So in case you're too young to maybe remember the resistive touchscreens, but they actually require you to use essentially like a little stylus, a pen, because you will actually be pushing in the screen ever so slightly and deforming it, and that's how it detects where you're touching. A little not as advanced as capacitive touchscreens, which almost every smartphone now is. So with that being said, that's why I'm pushing buttons down here. Although there are times when actually using the screen is a little more convenient. We'll get to that in a bit. Okay, so anyways, here's the home screen. There only appear to be 3 wallpapers preloaded. I selected the one I thought looked the best, and that's this one here. But let's just go ahead and go through some of this. So at the main screen, a lot of the navigation, I'm using this directional pad down here. And oh, by the way, you can see the buttons do in fact illuminate, as I suggest they would earlier. Okay, so when you go to the main menu, so I'll go back to the home page there. I'm just pushing the center, the navigation button. The center acts like a select button, so I'm pushing that. And then these are the things you get. You get contacts, call, and we're back to contacts. Let's go to and by the way, these shoulder buttons up here, the ones that are like these horizontal lines, they correspond to the things you see on the corresponding corners. So if I want to go back, I hit that line that was on the right side, because that's where, anyway, you get it. Okay, so let's go to settings. So you have some profiles, SOS, phone. Here's where you're going to set up like the time and all that. And let's just go in there real quick so you can see what you have. That's how I learned that this was a touch screen. And I, by the way, did calibrate it. You just tap, the little cursor moves to the corners of the screen in different spots, and you tap it so it calibrates it that way. This doesn't include a stylus from what I can see, so I just used a regular retractable pen, like, one of those pens you get like 10 in a pack. And I made sure that, of course, the ink part was retracted, and I just used the tip to touch. So, all right. Okay, we'll get back out of that. I'll go down to display. We'll see what's in. I haven't actually looked in animation effect. Okay, so powering on, powering off, and all that. All right, wallpapers. So I went with a static wallpaper. Evidently, you can get more pictures. Maybe you can take a picture and use that, like on your computer desktop. You can set a picture as your background. But here are the wallpapers. I selected 2. There are only 3 of those. Okay, going back. So screensaver, let's go into that. This here depends on what you'll see on the back screen or the outside screen. Right now I have it set to digital clock, but I can change it to analog. Analog clock does a better job of showing off the outside display, so I'll leave it that way. In security, okay, call settings. Okay, going back. Messages, okay, I'm just going to click in application so you can kind of see what comes pre-installed with. Facebook, I'm not sure about that because this is coming from China, so I don't know if they perhaps loaded a ROM on here knowing it was coming to the States or whatnot. But I don't know, if you're interested in Facebook, maybe look into that. Okay, let's see. Calculator. So here's the calculator. No. Instinctively, I just, of course, try to start because I'm used to use a smartphone. However, it is, remember, this actually has keys, so you can use it that way. So, like, for example, I just figured out down is the minus. Okay, yeah, so the direction buttons are doubling as your operations. But yeah, so anyways, this is probably where I would use my touch pen, as I already said. Okay, backing out of here. Okay. My files. Oh, so as far as I did put in the SIM card, but I did put in micro SD, and the micro SD card I put in was a 32 gig. So I didn't want to go any higher than that because I'm not sure if it would support even 32 gigs. Most of these phones in this price range usually top out around that. So, and yeah, so I'll see if that actually is being accepted. Once I test it out a little more. But so far it seems it hasn't told me I can't use it. So, but I'll double check that. Okay, and then of course you have Bluetooth. Okay, so all right. Yeah, so let's just talk about the screen here. The screen's actually, it's pretty big. It's bright. It's really easy to read. Yeah, I know I'm in a dark room, so of course I'll see if it's still easy to read when I go outside in the sunlight. But at least from my first impressions, it looks pretty good. I mean, again, we're not expecting 2K screen or anything like that. But for what it is, I'm satisfied with it. But we'll give that a further test. Now let's go ahead and look at that outside screen. So here's what it looks like when you select the analog clock. And yeah, so aesthetically this looks a lot cooler than just the time digital display. But I'll probably actually set this to the digital display because just I can flip it up real quick and see what time it is. But anyway, there it is. Now let's talk about once this goes off, like now, if you want to go ahead and without opening the phone, you want to display the time. There are 3 keys on the front. You may recall it's the rightmost key. If you push that, it wakes up the phone, or so that you can check out the time. Okay. Okay, so now, let me get back to the main screen. Back. Okay, so you can see it does recognize T-Mobile. And this is as good as time as any to tell you about when I first put the SIM card in here, after I actually got it to fit in. I put it in, turned on the phone, and I was not getting any signal. And I thought, uh-oh, what's going on? I wasn't sure, and then I was looking over for the manual, trying to find that to see if there's some little tidbit of information I didn't do. But actually, it just took that long for it to finally recognize the T-Mobile card. Alright, so I just got back from doing some real-world testing with this phone. I did, in fact, give this to a family member to use. I wanted to get their feedback, and ideally it was for them. But they didn't keep it for very long, and it's back in my hands, and well, we're going to go into why. So, with the testing they did and the short time I spent with it, our opinions on this phone are in agreement, and I will quote my family member about how they thought about this phone, and that would be, this phone sucks. All right, so let's dive in a little deeper than that and go into why it sucks. So first, let's talk about that phone call where they told me what they felt about this phone. I was actually calling them. They were using this phone, and I was using my daily carry, which is the LG V20. So, and both of us were in one of the larger cities in our country, America. Okay, it's not the largest city, but it's up there. Okay, so there should be no reason that we would have any reception problems, and no, the person wasn't in a tunnel or anything like that. So, okay, so that brings us to the first, and that's talking about network and reception. I do not believe this is a 4G phone. The reason I say that is because not only during the phone calls, I had to kind of like holler, not scream, but I had to like raise my voice in order for them to hear me. That shouldn't really be the thing, especially like I said, where we both were in easily 4G coverage area. I think this is probably a 2G phone. The reason I say that is because while using this, I noticed on the bar where the signal bar is, how many bars do you have? Okay, well, it would display the letter E, a capital letter E, a E1. So I'm pretty sure, going back actually quite a few years to when I remember seeing that on the cell phones of that time, E, if I recall, stands for Edge, which is somewhere between 2G and 3G. So a lot of people just call it 2.5G. So that would be a deal breaker on its own. But something I noticed even before that was this. Now we're going to get to the second thing. I'm going to zoom in so you can see. Alright, so you can see there right on the camera lens what it has printed, 5.0 megapixels. So this is claiming to be a 5 megapixel camera. I took some pictures and it became immediately clear. I get it, clear, because it wasn't clear. The pictures were horrible. Now, I went into settings and I made sure everything was maxed out. So I set it to the highest resolution, which is our first big hint. The max resolution on this camera is 1280 by 960. If you do the math, that comes out to be 1.23 megapixels. Yes, 1.23 is not 5. Okay, but even without doing that, the image quality on its own was so horrible, I almost thought the camera was broken. But, no, it's just really, really bad. So, alright, now, I wanted to do a little experiment. And I also not only set the megapixels to the max, which again isn't 5, but that 1.23, but I also went in and there's something in there like quality. It goes from like low to normal, and then the highest is advanced. So I set essentially everything as high as I could go, and I just went ahead and did a point and shoot test. So I took some photos. Again, not doing anything fancy, just point and shoot. Now I did that with this camera. And I also did it with this camera here. You may remember I did a review on this. This is the little Anika mini smartphone. And yeah, it fits in, like you can hide it in your hand. It's so small. Anyway, the reason I picked this phone to do a test with, a comparison, is because this camera you're looking at here is 5 megapixels, right? So now I shot the same images with this phone / camera. And I didn't do anything fancy. I just set it to 5 megapixels, point and shoot. I did not even use the screen to focus. So I'm going to show you the images now. Remember, the first image will be when I use this, and the following image will be the same photo, but when I took it with this. So have a look for yourself. Alright, so that does it right there. Now you're asking, what am I talking about? Well, I kind of have a policy, and it is when I run into something like this, where the manufacturers just straight up lie to me and you or to any customer, that ends the review, because I'm not going to recommend something where, yeah, that's complete BS, but the rest of the stuff's okay. No. It's kind of like that. Once you lie, you're a liar, and you're pretty much done as far as I'm concerned. So that's kind of where this review is going to end. I will go and do a conclusion right now, though, and that is that this is actually quite a shame. I actually like the way this phone feels. For those who are looking for something that isn't a smartphone, I thought this would have been a really good choice. And it's, again, I don't understand why they blew it all by just not going and getting an actual 5 megapixel camera. I mean, let's think about it. This phone was produced in 2019, okay? Listen, I mean, phones now are using 48 megapixel cameras, okay? So, with that being said, a 5 megapixel camera, that should be in the bargain bin of, where they put all the parts together, like the markets in Shenzhen. I mean, a 5 megapixel camera is probably dirt cheap. And they could have put that in here, and it probably would have raised the price of this maybe by, $2? I mean, we have one definite lie and probably a second lie, most likely, on the reception side, or network. So, yeah. And now you might think, well, I'm being kind of harsh. Well, first of all, I don't think I am. But especially with this kind of product, you can't afford to lose things such as the camera. Why? Well, a person who's going to get this, I understand. They agreed. They don't want a smartphone. But they also know they are giving up a lot of features because they're choosing not to have a smartphone. So then when they lose one of the few features they still have, it hits extra hard. So yeah, this is a no way recommend, and that's a shame because I actually really like the way this phone looks and feels. but I guess they had to save a few pennies. So